Trying to make sure everything is up. Give me a family. Give me a second, family. I'm trying to make sure everything gonna be working right. Can y'all see the presentation? I can't see nothing. Give me a second. Give me a second, y'all. I'm trying to make sure. Let's turn the thing. Make sure my thing is right. Hold on. Okay, I'm trying. Is it the presentation showing fully up there? Cause I don't. Hold on. All right, hold on one second. Oh boy. Can y'all see the presentation all the way, or is it still zooming in and out? Oh boy. Can y'all see the presentation all the way, or is it still zooming in and out? Oh boy. Hey, Sister Charlene, how you doing? All right. Oh, I can see it now. So I'm gonna get started in just a second. I'm gonna just share it. Give me a second. I'm finna share the and share the video real quick, and then I'll get started. All right. I guess I'll go ahead and get started. First, before I get started, my name is Kofi Paisai Alifie Ibe Mujube Iba Egungun Kiki Egungun. And basically, like I said, peace to the family. I pay homage to the ancestors. I praise the ancestors. Again, before I do anything, I always want to give reverence and honor to the ancestors. We wouldn't be here without the ancestors. We are our ancestors. So the name of this presentation is The Introduction of Yoruba. I always have to put a disclaimer out there before I get into my presentation. The disclaimer. I am not a teacher, but merely a student sharing information, and that information provided is for educational purpose only. And if you are in doubt, do the research or have it verified by someone qualified. I reserve the right to change the focus of this presentation, to shut down, to sell, and or change the terms of the copyright, registered name, motto, logo, avatar, the sigma, and marks use or rights to add information as it come available, and or adapted changes, improve information as it come available in the future. Inputs wanted, changes, additions, deletions encouraged. All right. This lecture is simply a PowerPoint, nothing too deep, just basic information about the Omo, which is the children of Yoruba or the Yoruba people and their culture, the traditions and spiritual system, Ifa, in southern western Nigeria, as well as southern and central Benin, which is all in West Africa. I am going to walk through step by step, starting with the introduction of Yoruba, Oduduwa, and the Ila Ifa, the cosmology / creation story, the Ori, the breakdown of the word Orisha, the Orisha, Orulima, what is the major Odus and what is the minor Odus, divination, offering, which is called Adamu, Adamu, sacrifice, Igbo, ancestor worship, rites of passage, Oju Ogun, which is the face of the ancestors, of the ancestor shrine, which is basically talking about the altar. So we'll be talking about the different things that's dealing with the altar. The rundowns of the few words of Yoruba. The PowerPoint will be given in parts and the presentations over a few weeks. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to give all the things that I'm going to walk through step by step. I'm not going to be able to give all of it in this one presentation, but I'm going to try to bog in as much information as possible. We probably just going to go into the introduction of Yoruba, Oduduwa, and the Ila Ifa, the cosmology story, and that's going to be the first three that we're going to, which I headed at part 1. At part 2, I'm gonna come back on Sunday because I want to do another PowerPoint on Tuesday, which has nothing to do with this, but I'll come back on Sunday and do the aura, the breakdown of the word Orisha, and we'll go into what is the Orisha, and we'll do a Rulima. So we'll break down who is a Rulima. So we'll do that next Sunday on part 2. And then part 3 will deal with the major Odus and the minor Odus. So I'll explain what is the Odus, what is the major Odus, and what is the minor Odus. We'll do divination, and we'll do offering, which is Adamu, and we'll probably do sacrifice, which is Igbo. Then part 4, we'll do ancestor worship, rites of passage, the Oju Ogun, and the rundown of a few Yoruba words. Okay, I'm just getting this out the way early. These are my references. The Handbook of Yoruba Religion by Baba Ifa Karada, The Way of the Orishas, Empower Your Life Through the Ancestor, Ancient African Religions, Ifa, Preference by Ofo Labi Egbe, by Philip John Nemor. Finding the Souls in the Path of the Orishas by To Malura Karel, a West African spiritual tradition. The Path of the Priest by Akin Kube Karada, which is a student of Baba Ifa Karada, the first book that I mentioned. The Fundamentals of the Yoruba Religion, Orisha, worshipped by Chief Fatma. The Concepts of Aura and the Human Destiny and Traditions, Traditional Yoruba Thought, Soft Determinants, Interpretation, Odel, Obudun, Balagun, Olabisa, Onabanjo, University of Nigeria. The New World, Oba Divination by Odowell Ifami. These are some other links that I use. Ilaifa.org. Why do you want the hand of Ifa? www.ifafoundation.org, www.ilaifa.org, Ifa Initiation, www.ganja.com, Article 14, News 4738. So these are all my references. As an introduction to the subject matter on the Yoruba, let it be stated that the origin of the people and the culture known as Yoruba are so wrapped in antiquity that that to the exactly say where and when it begins is impossible. However, the sincere attempt to present a viable description will be undertaken. The Yoruba people migrated from East Africa across the Trans-African route from the Mile Niger River or the Mid-Niger, explaining supposed similarities between Yoruba and the Egyptian culture of the Remich culture. According to archaeologist M. Omele, informed us that the Nigeria region was inhabited more than 40,000 years ago, or back at 65,000 BCE. The civilization has been deemed in part the Note culture. The Note culture was visited by the Yoruba group 2,500 BC. The group was led, according to the Yoruba historical account, by Oduduwa, who settled, which we'll talk about Oduduwa in this lecture, who settled somewhat peacefully in the already established Ifa, the sacred city of the indigenous people. This time period is known as the Bronze Age, indicating the civilization of both groups were at relative high levels. So I advise people to look at the Note culture, and you can see a lot of things that the Note culture brung in before the Yoruba people actually inhabited that area. According to Olomido Jalukas, the Yoruba during antiquity lived in ancient Egypt before migrating to the Atlantic coast. He uses as a demonstration the similarities of identities of language, religious belief, customs, and names of the persons, places, and things. In addition, many ancient papyrus discovered by archaeologists point at the Egyptian origin. And again, the Egyptian, we know them as the Egyptian, but we know the name that they go refer to themselves as the Remich or the Kemetu. The Kemetu order, coupled with the earlier people, produced the more defined statement of what makes Yoruba. Some say Yoruba migrated to Nigeria in different ways, such as the Hexo invasions, the Romans, and the Arabs invasion. So we know that the people that migrated into West Africa at this point of time came from a different place. I'm gonna go into some of the different things that archaeologists say that these people came from out of the East Africa into North Africa, which is today is known as Kemet, but back then it was known as Timeri or Kemet. Those people stayed there for an amount of time, and then they migrated into other areas. They migrated into West Africa. They migrated during the Hexos invasion, which the Hexos invasion was doing after the middle, the second intermediate period. During the Greeks, where I forgot to put the Greeks, but the Greeks and the Romans. We know the Greeks came in 332. We know the Romans came in 30 BCE. We know the Arabs came in 641 CE. So they migrated in these different areas. And most of the people that are diaspora Africans are calling themselves Africans Americans or Africans in America. We know that our bloodline goes back to Africa. We know that during the Atlantic slave trade, that our ancestors was brought here and enslaved and worked for free labor and built a society for another group of people. So majority of us that does our DNA test, we know that it's going to trace back to West Africa. So this is why I'm doing something on West African African spiritual system out of West Africa, which one that I particularly like and I actually practice also, which is a practitioner of, which is Ifa. So the Yoruba faith is a monolithic tradition that recognizes one God who speaks and works on earth through the pantheons of goddess called the Orisha. The ancestors or the Egun assist and support the lives in their daily lives. The traditions, deepens, mysteries, and teachings are contained in a traditional deepest mystery, and the teachings are contained in a body of oral scriptures called the Odu, which have passed from elders to devotees from the countless generations. Family, share the video also. If you hadn't shared the video, share the video. The Yoruba religion is a way of life. It is the spiritual practice of working in loving relations, not only with deities, but also with the ancestors. It is seeking to know the sacred nature of light, the breath of God flowing through all things. It is the holistic integration of all aspects of our being, bodies, feelings, thoughts, and energies in order to restore wholeness where there is fragmentations and balance where there is a disarray. This is from page 3 of Finding the Souls in the Path of the Orishas, the West African spiritual system. Most African traditions, including Yoruba, base 1, do work with trance and bloody sacrifice, that is a ritual killing of animals, never humans. In fact, virtually everyone's world religion has a desire to pay reference, although it is a taboo for a nay devotees except between initiations to disclose how any or rituals are performed. I can tell you that in a Yoruba practice, as in many religions, blood symbolizes life, which it does. By offering blood to the Orishas, we in living our relationships with God, stimulating and to fortify our spiritual unities with them. And I'll go in the presentation, I'll go a little bit further in that, because all we know that blood symbolizes life. Blood is the river of life, and we'll go through that later on in the presentation. According to Baba Ifa Karada, book page 2, the Yoruba tradition, Oduduwa, the chief ancestor and the first king of Yoruba, settled at Ife. From this point, his descendants became the kings and queens of Yoruba cities and territories. The greatest of the Odu descendants was Oramiyan, who became the Alifan, ruler of Oya state somewhere around 1400 AD. Oramiyan armies marched across the southern Sudan and penetrated deep into the great tropical forest, conquering and laying the foundation of the Yoruba Empire. Centuries of speculators, glories, and achieved followed a reign of Oramiyan. It was during the great era that Yoruba people re-established Ife as the sacred spiritual capital of Oya as their governmental seat. I also know a Babalua that is from Oya, which is in Nigeria, that I actually start speaking to now on a day-to-day basis. And Oramiyan is one of the 16 sons of Oduduwa. And we'll talk. We're gonna go into some of the sons of Oduduwa. We're gonna go into who is Oduduwa also. The Yoruba spiritual system are also incredible, widespread around the world. Some of this was due to the migrations, yet the most recent migration is because of the Atlantic slave trade that brought the people of Yoruba to Trinidad, Tobago, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Venezuela, North America, and elsewhere. Cuba immigrates to New York City brought the Yoruba to the United States in 1930s and the 40s. Today, as many as 75 million people worldwide practice some version of the tradition. Yoruba and the Orishas, Nigeria and the United States, Santa Maria, Cuba, Kandambala, Brazil, Shango Baptist, Trinidad, and the Ifa priesthood, Nigeria and America. So we talked about earlier about those people. Some stories say that the people migrated from East Africa into North Africa, stayed there for a while, then they migrated into West Africa. Now, the spiritual system migrated in other areas because of the Atlantic slave trade that took place in 1942. We know that the Wanzungu, the European, came into West Africa and kidnapped and enslaved our ancestors and brought them to the Caribbeans, to South America, and to North America, where we reside, what we call the United States, and doing the kidnapping and them taking them to these different places, such as they said a while ago, Trinidad, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Venezuela, and North America. They begin to practice a form of Yoruba that comes from out of southwestern Nigeria or Benin. And Santeria is a version of the African spiritual system of Ifa, which comes from out of Cuba. And Candomblé comes from out of Brazil, which is also a form of Ifa that comes from out of Brazil. Shango Baptist out of the Trinidad, and Ifa priest is Nigeria. Ifa is in Nigeria and North America. All right, we're going to go into, before I go any further, we'll go into a little bit of what is Santeria. We'll go into Candomblé. We'll go into Shango Baptist a little bit to give you some of these other versions of Ifa from the Yoruba people as they was kidnapped and took to these other different places. Santeria, also known as Regla del Ocho, La Regla de Ifa, or Lucuma, is an Afro-American religion of Caribbean origin that developed in the Spanish Empire among West African descendants. Santeria is a Spanish word that means the worship of the saints. Santeria is an influence by the Syncretism of Roman Catholicism. Its sacred language and verifies of Yoruba is Lukumba language. Now, before I go any further with that, now Santeria is a synchronism of the Yoruba culture of the Ifa, the spiritual system that comes from out of Nigeria, and the Roman Catholics, because the people during 1942, we know most of the Europeans, they were Christians and they practiced Catholic. They were Catholic, so they practiced Catholicism. So they couldn't practice their indigenous spiritual system that they had. So they had to entangle Ifa into Catholicism. So they synchronized them and hid some of their things into the Catholicism. So when they was talking about Catholicism, some of the patrons of the Catholicism, they synchronized them with the Orishas and matched them with the Orishas. Santeria is a system of belief that merges aspects of Yoruba religions brought to the New World by enslaved Yoruba people, along with Christianity and the religions of the indigenous people of the Americas. The Yoruba people carried with them various religious customs, including a trance and divination systems for communication with the ancestors and the deities, which we're going to talk about divination, not on this presentation, but next Sunday in volume 2, we'll go into what is divination. And, we'll go into divination. For the communication of their ancestors and of the deities, animal sacrifice, sacred drummings and dances, the needs to preserve their tradition and belief system in a hostile culture environment prompted those enslaved in Cuba, starting from as early as 1550, to merge their customs with the aspect of Roman Catholicism. Their religious tradition evolves into what is now recognized in Santeria. Basically what I was talking about a while ago, they're synchronizing their customs, their traditions, their religion, or their spiritual system into Catholicism, the oppressor religion, and came up with Santeria. But today they do not have to synchronize that Ifa with Catholicism anymore. They no longer enslaved over there, so they might as well start practicing the right way and unsynchronize the oppressor customs tied into their own indigenous customs. Now we're going to Candomblé. Candomblé, Portuguese pronounced Candombela, dance in honor of the gods in the Afro-American religion tradition practiced in Brazil. Now this is where we went into of Cuba, well, we know that some of the people that our ancestors that was kidnapped went into Cuba. Now we're talking about those that went into Brazil that took and formed from the Yoruba people formed the Candomblé in Brazil. By the Povo do Santo, the people of the saints, Candomblé officially originated in Salvador, Bahia, at the beginning of the 19th century, when the first temple was founded. Although Candomblé is practiced primarily in Brazil, it is also a practice in other Latin America countries, including Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Venezuela, having as many as 2 million followers. Candomblé developed in a creolization of traditional Yoruba, the fond of the Bantu belief brought from West Africa by the enslaved captives of Portuguese. And we know that the people of Yoruba and the people in Benin, or was called Dahomey, they also practice Ifa, but they also practice, the fun people also practice voodoo or voodoo. So voodoo or voodoo comes from West Africa. It is a West African spiritual system. And maybe later on, I'll do a presentation on voodoo or voodoo, because we have we are misinformed of what voodoo is. Everything that we talk about is dealing with African spiritual system. We say that's voodoo, and we don't even know what. If I ask a person what do voodoo or what voodoo mean, no one can tell me what voodoo or what voodoo means. Or we think about New Orleans. We think about voodoo, which is an African spiritual system, which I'll do a presentation on the fun people, and voodoo, which is also has very similarities to Ifa spiritual system. And as an oral tradition, it does not have holy scriptures. Practitioners, hold on. I'm blind, y'all. I don't know why I don't never get my glasses. As an oral tradition, it does not have holy scriptures. Practitioners of Candomblé believe in a supreme creator called Oduduwa. So Oduduwa. We're going to talk about Oduduwa because Oduduwa, you hear a lot about Oduduwa and Ifa, which Candomblé is a version of Ifa, which we know that those people that are in Brazil are the ancestors of those that come from out of West Africa, of southwestern Nigeria, southern and eastern Benin, Benin. Every practice is believed to have their own tutelary Orishas, which control his or her destiny, and they act as a ceremony, since the dance enables worship to become possessive by the Orishas. In the ritual, participant makes offerings from a mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms. Candomblé does not include duality of good and evil. Each person is required to fulfill his or her own destiny of fullness, regardless of what that is. Many spiritual practice churches have overlapped membership with the practitioners of the Trinidad Orisha religion. So now we're going into another version of Ifa, which is out of Trinidad. Again, we know during the Atlantic slave trade in 1942, our ancestors was kidnapped and went into these other places. So the Trinidad Orishas is called the Shango. We're going to talk about Shango because Shango is one of the Orishas out of the Ifa. And Shango is one of the popular Orishas that we hear about more than we hear about the other Orishas. The term Shango Baptist is sometimes used to describe worshipers who are involved with both spiritual baptism and Orisha/Shango. The term Shango Baptist has come to have a negative connotation for some worshipers of both spiritual baptism and the Orisha/Shango, who argue that those who say Shango Baptist conflates two religions, when in fact they are separate. As some have said, there are no things as Shango Baptist. Shango is Shango. Baptist is Baptist. Others say that Shango baptism simply wears two hats. Their mixture of Baptist and Orisha practice is a result in similar oppression by the colonial authorities of Trinidad. So again, we have to see through these our ancestors was kidnapped out of West Africa and went into other different areas. We have and were enslaved. They ended up mixing the oppressor religion with their spiritual systems because it was against the law, or they could not practice their spiritual systems. Again, when we was kidnapped, you have to understand, we were stripped of what? We were stripped of our name. We were stripped of our culture. We were stripped of our traditions. We were stripped of everything. So we were stripped of our native tongue. We were stripped of our cultures, our traditions, our spiritual systems, and we couldn't practice these things anymore. So we had to take on the oppressor, i.e. religion. So in order for us to try to keep our traditions relevant and we can able to pass them down, we had to synchronize our system, our culture, our traditions, our morals, our ethics, our edicts into the oppressor's religion. In practice, the Trinidad Orisha religion is very closely connected with the spiritual baptism. Orisha worship service typically begins in a section of baptism hymns. In Trinidad and the New York Orisha events are often held at the same location as a spiritual Baptist church. Now, some scholars say the Yoruba history begins with the migration of East Africans population across the Trans-African route leading from the Mid-Nile River area to the Mid-Niger. Some debate the Yoruba history begins with the Yoruba people migrating to Nigeria/Benin from the Nile Valley. The evidence is of the Questel incident depicting a pre-dynastic king wearing a white crown of Upper Kemet, this Cushite of the Sudan, who later time migrated westways along approximately 2,000 years. I wanted to put, I thought I had put that up at the Question Instant Burner so you can see it. It has been rumored that Oduduwa, or one of his sons, was in fact migrated from the Sudan, who established a royal lineage Yoruba line. The Yoruba culture is one of the most widespread globally of all African tribal cultures. The origin of Yoruba people are in West Africa. Okay, Oduduwa. So I just gave an introduction, a basic introduction of Yoruba. So I told you exactly where the Yoruba people come from, where they say that some of the people from how did the people in Nigeria ended up there through different migrations. We talked about them migrating there through the Hyksos invasion, the Greeks invasions, the Romans invasions, and the Arabs invasion, migrating in those different areas. We talked about Oduduwa. They talked about Oduduwa being the first king of Ila Ifa in southern western Nigeria. So I gave you some of the things from 1942 of our ancestors being kidnapped from West Africa and brought into the Caribbean, South America, and North America. So we broke down some of the spin-offs of Ifa, which was the Santeria, Kamdambala, the Trinidad baptism, and there was some other few. Okay, Oduduwa. Several legends concern the origin and ancestries of Oduduwa abound in Yoruba and Benin mythology. The Yoruba believe he is the father of Yoruba and the progenitor of Yoruba Obas, or the Obi of Benin. Benin believed that he is a Benin prince called Ikala Dikan, who was banished by his father. And I'm going to give, there are many stories or many Odus about Oduduwa. So I'm going to give you many varieties of stories of many Odus of Oduduwa. Several legends concerning the origins and the ancestors of Oduduwa abound in Yoruba and Benin mythology. The Yoruba believe he is the father of the Yoruba and the progenitor of all Yoruba Obas and Oba of Benin. The Benin believe that he is a Benin prince called Ikala the Herhan. And Benin is also right there by Nigeria. And believe it or not, Benin is Nigeria. His name, the Benin's claim he derived from Oduduwa, a Benin word meaning fortune, path, symbolizing the painful exile from his ancestral home. In support of this, they claim Oduduwa's son, Oran Miyan, later returned to Benin to rule the empire around 1000 AD. Oduduwa is believed to have several sons, 16 in numbers. And the number 16, in the Yoruba culture, you're going to see the number 16 a lot. They're going to mention the number 16 a lot. Who later, Oni of Ila, Orangan of Ila, Owa of Elisha, Alike of Ibikuta, Osimawi of Odu. Yoruba tradition holds that Oduduwa fled from Mecca of Ila Ifa, bringing with him the Ifa religion, which was under persecution in Mecca. He was, and again, I'm just giving you a bunch of varieties of stories of Oduduwa. And this in here, him coming from Mecca, I don't agree with this because I hadn't, you know, when you do the research on this, it's not a lot of information of him coming from out of so-called Mecca. He is, but I understand why they would have this in here too. His ancient customs and institution of his people. Oduduwa shrines is still worshipped today in Ila Ifa as a cradle of Yoruba culture. Oduduwa, the first Onu of Ifa, fathered 16 sons who found the 16 original kingdoms of Yoruba. Odumari, the supreme god, ordered Obatala to create the earth, but on his way to carry out the duties, he drank the palm wine and got intoxicated. That was how Oduduwa took the 3 items of creation from him, climbed down from the heavens, or what they call Iran, on a chain, and threw the handful of earth of Iya on the primordial ocean. He then put cockerels on it so that it would scatter the earth for him to create a land where Ila Ifa will be built. When the newly formed land was built, he planted a palm nut, which is called Ikoli, or Iko Ifa, which is the sacred palm nuts that the Babaluals use, in a hole where we'll talk about when we get into the thing about divination. In a hole where it is sprung a great tree with 16 branches that represents a symbolic clan of earlier Ifa cities. And again, I told you, the number 16 is going to be mentioned a lot. They use the number 16 a lot, so pay attention to that. The instructions of the creation by Oduduwa gave rise to the everlasting conflict between him and his brother Obatala, which still exists today during Itapa, New Year's festival. In spite of all this, Oduduwa was the ancestor of the first king of Yoruba land, while Obatala was the first person to create humans out of clay. Oduduwa is the Prince Izaduwa, also called Iker Ladihan, the son of Igoso Owodo, the last Ogiso. And excuse me because I know I'm pronouncing some of the names wrong, so bear with me. The first royal dynasty of Benin, who through the machinations of his stepmother, queen, and his father's chief of the army staff became a fugitive, who first fled to Uktan and thence to Ifa, where an already existing Yoruba people. When the Ifa people asked him about his name, he appraised his natural fortune of being born a prince together with his travails of being a fugitive and concluded that Oshan Nobar actually destined him for greatness and prosperity. He then decided to discard his former name, Ika Lur Dehan, and told the Yoruba people that it is Oduduwa, meaning I have chosen the road to prosperity. The Benins never asked Oduduwa to send them a ruler. The history text, even the most dubious of them, agreed that the Benin sent a delegation led by a high chief, Olaha, to Oduduwa, asking him to come home and mount his rightful throne. Oduduwa never disputed his claim, but told them that he is too old and he cannot abandon these people who were there for him during his travels. He then sent one of his sons, Iran Miyan, to Benin to continue his fatherly royal line. And it is this Orimanya who begot Iwaka, the first vile princess, Miwende, the daughter of Onagia of Igor. And again, remember, I'm pronouncing these names wrong, so please bear with me. Yes, two deities both use clay in human creation. And you will see the similarities between the Remich culture or the Kimatu culture and the Yoruba culture. You can see we'll go through some of the distinctions too. And again, during the introduction part, one of the stories or one of the Odus were told that these people migrated out of Nigeria. Oduduwa migrated out of North Africa into West Africa. So you can see, or another story, or another Odu, these people came from East Africa into North Africa, from North Africa and migrated into West Africa. So you see the similarities between East Africa, North Africa, and West Africa. The Yoruba creation stories. So now I gave you a little bit of brief information on Oduduwa as well as the introduction of Yoruba. Now we'll go into the Yoruba creation stories, or the Yoruba cosmologies. In Yoruba cosmos, there is one supreme being, the source, the almighty owner of the entire universe. God, whose work on this galaxy is carried out by one creator, who works on earth, or Eon, is aided by 401 gods of goddesses. Both sources, Olaron, and the creator Odumari, exist in the invisible realm, Ikole Iran or Ikole Iya, while the helper gods, the Orishas, existed as divine immortals on earth, the Ikole Iya. The energy or source flow into the joints with the energy of the creator, which combines flows through and the joints with a manifold energy of the Orishas, which then flows through all that exists in creation. Yoruba divinity actually begins before the beginning. The Oleron, the supreme being and the source of the entire universe. According to the Yoruba teachings, Oleron is so profound as intelligence and the mystery such as an intensive force. Now, when you start to study the Yoruba people and study Ifa, you'll see that they might separate Odumari and they might separate Oleron. They might say that Oleron is the creator, is the almighty source, and then you might hear that Odumari is the creator. And also, you might hear that Odumari or Oleron is a male, or you might hear that Odumari and Oleron is a female, which I have no problem with the female. I rather call them females because I know all life stems through the womb of the feminine principle. So, and they both go hands in hand. Sometimes when they mention Odumari, they are also talking about Oleron. So remember that Oleron and Odumari are one and the same. But in some Odus, they speak of them being separate, but they are one and the same.
way up in Iran, which is the heavens or the invisible realm, beyond a place where suns are born, there is a gigantic water pot owned by a supreme deity, Oleron. Although no one has ever seen Oleron pot, it is known for as a wide as the biggest, most beautiful, and strongest of all water pots, overflowing with the purest, sweetest, and most sparkling water. The elder tells ancient stories that hail the magnificence of Oleron pot, which is the oldest one, referred to as the beginning of all things, which in the Kemetu culture, they would say the Zeptepi. So powerful is the pot magic that it creates an entire world. And even though divine water pours constantly from this overflowing pot, it has never ceased to flow and always remains full. One day, Oleron decided she wanted, and again, you'll hear me use the word she or he a lot. Most of you hear me use the word she. I like to use the word she, or you'll hear me say he or she. Again, Oleron or Odemare, you can use them as the masculine principle or the feminine principle, he or she. One day, Oleron decided she wanted to begin creating physical matter in the universe. His or her or it had attempted this several times before by flooding the heavens or the Iran with the magic waters of his or her or its great pot. But each time she encountered the same dilemma, because the water contained so much of his or her or its greatness and power, it was to hold or scrounge the universe before anything had changed to develop. And Oleron was pressed for time, since as the supreme being, she or it was busy maintaining order in the cosmos. So the faculties, her works created the universe. Oleron, which is the Oleron, decided he or her or it needed to find an assistant and a way to cool down the pot scandal water. Now here, I'm talking about in this Odu, I'm going to share different Odus, because there are different Odus to the creation story, as there are different cosmologies when you're dealing with the remit of the Kemetu creation stories as well. So in this Odu, I'm gonna use the Odus where they're talking about Oleron and Odemare as two separate entities. Oleron as the supreme deity of the all in all, and Oleron as the supreme deity of the all in all, and Odemare as the creator, which is also in this Odu, Olemare would be the daughter of Oleron. Remember, countless ions ago, he or she or it had made another poi, and one slightness smaller, but still enormous and magical. Oleron had given it to he, she, or the oldest child, Odemare, who placed it in heaven, or the Iko-Oran, the invisible realm of the heavens, a little below Oleron palace, and watered over it, which was supervised by Oleron. Hold on. Oleron placed over it, which was supervised by Oleron and carried out by Odemare. This was a plan, as Odemare would hold he, her, or it owns pot as just that right angle to catch the water as it fell from the upper heavens. Next, Odemare would mix into Oleron's water some of the cool water to just the right temperature for creation matter in the universe. Odemare would then pour their combines and cool just juices into the lower heavens. And again, here we're talking about the creation story. So any of my brothers and my sisters out there that know about how the world was created where we talk about the Big Bang Theory, or we talk about quantum physics, quantum mechanics. So those that know about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, the study of the Big Bang Theory, where we talk about how things came into creation, how the atom was formed, how the elements on the periodic table was formed through different fusions. The Earth, not the Earth, but the universe being a certain temperature and cooling down, and et cetera, et cetera. Our ancestors was already on this information before the science of quantum physics and quantum mechanics. This is where this stuff comes from. So, and I know when we think about scientists, we always think about white individuals with white lab coats on. But when I think about scientists, I think about our ancestors that has the same dark hue color as me, that presides in a continent where humanity started at. Okay. Oduduwa would hold he or it on pot in just the right angle to catch the water as it fell from the upper heavens. Next, Oduduwa would mix into Oleron's water some of the cool water to just the right temperature for creating matter in the universe. Oduduwa would then pour the combined and cool juices into the lower heavens of the Econ Oran, thereby creating the stars, life forms, and all matter of energy in the universe. That was the first part of Oleron's request. That's powerful. And again, if you up on the science of matter, black matter, energy, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, studying the Big Bang Theory and other things, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. This stuff was going on way before then. Oleron had another task for he or her or its son or daughter. She asked he or her or it to look after one particular pot in the cosmos, where Oleron wanted to create several planets. Wow. Including a small one he, she, or it will call Earth or Econ Iran. Oleron asked Oduduwa, Econ Iya, which would be the Earth. Earth in Yoruba is Iya, or the invisible realm, Econ Iran, the physical realm of the physical planet. Oran asked Oduduwa to create and take care of the Earth or the Iya. He, she, or it needed to envelop and develop over time and to put the proper rhythm and cycle into place. Oleron suggested that Oduduwa share the work with he, her, or its children, the Orishas, she said. After the water have cooled a bit and great vessels, give your children a drink from the pot. Then send them down to earth to pour my waters, each one in his or her own way, into everything that you will create there on my behalf, but in your name. Although I ask you to check with me every now and then, I trust you will put the very best in your goddessness into his work. I am too busy and needed in too many places to worry about all the details. So I'll leave those up to you. Also, my hands, unlike yours, are too old and hot to cool my waters. Although I am and will always remain the most powerful, first and oldest, you will be the second in command, know and reverence as the creator and infinitely great and powerful force. When Oleron finished speaking, Oduduwa, filled with emotions and gratitude, fell to his, her, or its knees. Oduduwa thanked Oleron for giving such an important task and promised to put he, her, or it wholehearted and complete attention into doing his, her, or its job. Brimming with joy, he, she, or it left Oleron palace and immediately set out about the blessed works of Oleron had assigned. To this day, Olemari remains the lower heavens, fulfilling her, or its promise to Oleron, creating and taking care of life on Iya, or earth, as well as the planets and stars surrounding it. Her children, the Orisha, still drinks Oleron's magic waters and still pour the magic into everything on earth. Oleron's owner and source of all things continue to direct and oversee its all from her or its great palace atop of the highest peak of Ikon Oron, which is the invisible realm or the heavens of Oran. Yoruba West. Now I'm talking about the creation story. I talked about a little bit when we talked about Oduduwa, and so we're going to go into a little bit more of the creation stories. Again, there are different varieties of the creation stories. So we're going to talk about the letter. We're going to talk about the chain. We're going to talk about the palm nuts. We're going to talk more about Odumari, Abatala. We're going to talk about the palm nuts, which is the Erikes, the Iko Erikes, the sacred palm nuts. Odumari, like Oleron, is often designed as a male, but like Oleron, Odumari also transcends. So it transcends gender. But I know we like to use terms. We like to use different genders for different forces. So we give the forces of nature, we give them certain genders as male and female. But Oleron or Odumari, which I said earlier, that Oleron is the supreme deity or the all in all, and Odumari is the creator. But Oleron and Odumari is the same. But in this Odu that I'm telling, they are separate. But Oleron and Odumari are the same thing, but they transcend gender. But most Odus relates to Olemari and Odumari and Oleron as male. I like to refer to them as female. And some Odus, they are referred to as females instead as male. Because again, I like the term female because I know all life stems through the womb of a woman. Whether I look at it from the Homo sapien perspective, which I'm saying the human's perspective, all life comes through the womb or through the triple darkness of the womb of a woman. I know that the heavens and the earth was created through the womb. I know that everything was created through the womb of the universe or through the heavens, which in some cultures, the Ramish cultures, Newt. Newt is the universe or the heavens is a female. We look at the animals in nature. A female bear, a female lion gives birth. So we know that our life stems through the womb of a woman. So I prefer using the term female than male. Some say Odumari represents the sacred womb of the creation. And because woman creates new life through their womb, some use masculine and some use feminine pronouns for their stories, as I talked about earlier. Creation, Odumari, the single, and now we're going into another creation story. Odumari, the single God, assembled all his wealth in one place and set his messengers out to summon the 401 Iran Molis, supernatural beings from the Ikon Oran, which are the heavens or the invisible realms, and the Iran Moles or the Orishas. The 256 of whom, because of the sacred Odus and texts of Ifa, which we're going to go into the Odus on doing the presentation of what I ran down or what I'll be going to in this part. In part 2, we'll talk about the Odus. We'll talk about the major Odus, which is the 16 Odus, and we'll go into the 240 or the 16 Odus, which is the major Odus, and then we'll go into the 240 Odus, which you calculate, you get 256 Odus, or 250 sacred stories or texts of our ancestors from West Africa that practice Ifa. he sent for them so that they could carry his treasury to earth. They were asked to sacrifice a large lumps of pounds of yams, potful of soups, many cola notes, which cola nuts are pronounced as oba in Yoruba, oba, ikan oba, which is the sacred cola nuts, sheep, pigeons, fowls, and 3,200 cories, and to use their sacrifice to entertain visitors. Odemare's messenger reached all 401 Iran moles, and again the Iran moles are the Orishas, and delivered the message, but none of them entertained the message with the order sacrifice. When the messengers reached Iran Miller, which we're going to talk about Iran Miller too, because Iran Miller is it's important when we talk about the divination system that our ancestors that practiced, the divination system. He was welcomed heartily and entertained with food because of this kindness. The messenger disclosed to Iran Miller that he should not be very anxious about carrying the treasure because the most important one was underneath Odemare's seat. When the Iran moles assembled, they were told of Odemare's message, and all of them were struggling from what they believed to be the most valuable content. Some carried money, some food, some other things valuable to them. Odemare's message talked through his trumpet told Iran Miller to sit quietly because that's most important thing in the snail and in snail shells. Iran Miller, which you will see, Iran Miller is a very important key to divination into the Ifa spiritual system that our ancestors practiced in West Africa. Man, I hope y'all can see this in here. Iran Miller patiently watched the other Iran Millers take away all wealth, property, and various essence they were to carry to earth, which earth in Yoruba is Eya. After they left, Iran Miller got up and went straight to where Odemare sat, took the snail shell from under his seat and departed from the earth and departed for earth of Oya. Iran Miller met the other Iran moles, and again, Iran moles are the Orishas, at the terminus of the roads leading from heavens, which is the Ikan Oran, and to earth, which is Ikan Eya, and asked them what was wrong. They responded that the earth was covered with water, and there was no place for them to land. Then Iran Miller dipped his land into the shells and took out a net. A third time he reached into the snails and brought forth a 5-finger cock and threw him onto the net to spread the earth on the net and the waters. I'm gonna stop right there. Again, I was talking earlier when I was going into the other creation stories. I was talking about what today is known as quantum physics, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, or things, a scientist that deals with the Big Bang theory, how everything came into existence. So our ancestors, this is where they get the information. This is where they get the science. So our ancestors was already talking about this science of how things was created, how things came into creation. Even when you deal with other spectrums of religions that came later on, they talk about the different ferments, right? They talk about how God separated the ferments. So we're talking about the waters, how we separated the waters from the heavens and the earth. So here you can see here the same story that is being told. Again, a lot of the religions that we are practicing today are different fragments of fragmentations from our ancestors' African spiritual systems. So you can see the similarities between the different religions that some of us, that are practicing now. Then Iran Miller dipped his hand into the snail shells and took out the net. A third time, he reached into the shells and brought forth a 5-finger cock and threw him onto the net to spread the earth on the net and the water. The the cock began to spread, said the earth. Water was moving backwards, and the ground was spreading. When it seems the work was going too slowly, Orunmila himself descended and commanded the small land to be expanded. Thus, be expanded quickly, be expanded quickly, be expanded quickly. He stopped, and the word expanded. There was great joy in the Ikan Oran, or heavens, the place where Orunmila stood as the first person on earth, and decreed the word be expanded. It is to this day called Ifa Wara in Ila Ife. The 401 Orans descended after Orunmila, who created the land and first threaded upon it. He did not allow any of the Oranmos or the Orishas to descend unto the land until he has accepted all that they had brought with them and gave to them what he saw fit. The joyful received their portions. Iranmos were those supernatural beings from the Ikol Iran, which is the heavens, who first visited Ikan Eya, the earth. It was they who made earth habitable for human beings. They are the energies from which all nature derives. And again, when we're talking about the Orishas, now we'll talk about the Orishas in step part, and a lot of the Orishas, we're dealing with our ancestors told stories. So they told stories to get the layman people to understand certain things that they might not understand. So a lot of things that they told stories that identified with things that they saw on a day-to-day basis. So they saw human beings on a day-to-day basis. They saw plants on a day-to-day basis. They saw the sun on a day-to-day basis. They saw soil. They saw dirt. They saw things in nature. So our ancestors told things about what's happening in nature, or how things came about, these energies or these energies or these forces of nature, and stories by anthropomorphizing them, by giving them human attributes. As the wind, we call the wind Shu, or we call the wind Oya in Yoruba, Oya, or you know what I'm saying? So Oya is other things, but Oya can be similar as the wind or the whirlwind. And wind has, and when we look at Oya, Oya is depicted as a female. So the wind is told in a feminine, it's told in a story format to get you to understand about what is the wind. Going into what is low pressure, what is high pressure, what is creating these different forces in nature, or these different energies. It was they who made earth habitable for human beings. They are the energy from which all nature derives. Is you saying it's a glitch in it, Sinet? Oh, okay. He's saying, Monica, did you fix? Oh, so he's talking to you. But I hope everything is still going all right. It's no glitching here, rebooting. Oran, who had made it possible for the Iran Moli to descend to earth, ascended only 256 of them, including Ogun, god of Ugun, god of metal, or the Orisha of metal, and the creative of god of justice, Oshanyan, or the Orisha of justice, Oshian, god of medicine, and the most intelligent of all, reverent god, called the Orisha of intelligence, of knowledge, Orunmila. The Iranmos were born on earth, nor would they die here. They were the links between human beings and Odemari at the creation of the earth, and they are the only links now, individuals or collective. They serve as a medium through which Odemari imparts to humankind his scientist knowledge of nature and general, and his esoteric knowledge of words known as Ifa. Once they had brought Odemari treasure to earth, the Iran Molis ascended to Ikan Iran, which is the heavens, and did not return because they had acted as a meteor, and teaching that departure left a gap or void between human beings and Odemari. How could human beings continue to communicate with Odemari? The logical answer was that a spirit or energy of the Iranmolis or the Orishas would be invoked to carry messages. From this time until now, the Iranmolis are the only clear path to Odemari to communicate with. Everything considered, it seems logical for human beings to invoke the spirits of the Iranmoli through the medium of the object most charitable by them doing the tincture on earth. This includes their tools, their images, or the medium by which they had descended to Ikan Iya, which is the earth, or ascended back to Ikan Oran, which is the heaven or the invisible realm, which the Opan Ifa, which is Opa Ifa is the divination tray of the sacred palm nuts, which is the Ikan Ifa, which is the sacred palm trees, which is used extensively by Iranmoli as well as others, which we're going to get into that later on, not in this presentation, about the divination, the Odus, and more about Orilima. The Yoruba tribe of West Africa has a myth about how they were created. In the beginning, there was only the sky above, water, and marshal below. The chief Orisha Orulima ruled the sky, and the goddess Akun ruled what was below. Now, again, I'm just giving you various stories of the creation stories of the cosmology of the Yoruba people. So, and again, through different African spiritual systems, their cosmology or their creation story, they have varieties of different stories. So I'm giving you the texts, or I'm giving you the Odus of their cosmology. West Africa has a myth about how they was created. In the beginning, there was only a sky above, water, marsh below. The chief Orisha Oruliran ruled the sky, and the goddess Okan ruled what was below. A Batala, another Orisha, reflected upon this situation, then went to Oleron for permission to create dry land for all kinds of living creatures and inhabit it. He was given permission, so he sought an advice for Arulima, oldest son Oleron, and the Orisha of prophecy. Hold on, let me say that again. He was giving permission, so he sought advice from Irulima, the oldest son of Oleron, and the Orisha of prophecy. He was told he would need a gold chain long enough to reach below a snail shell filled with sand, a white hen, a black cat, and a palm nut, all which he was to carry in a bag. And I showed you this while ago in a picture in green. I showed you the palm nuts. I showed you Oran Miller, the gold chain, the snail, the cock, the sand, etc., etc. All the Orishas contribute what gold they had, and Arulima supplied the article for the bag. When all was ready, Abatala hung the chain from the corner of the sky, placed the bag over the shoulder, and started the downward climb. When he reached the end of the chain, he saw he still had some distance to go. From above, he heard Arulima instructed him to pour the sand from the snail shell and also release the white hen. He did as he was told, whereupon the hen landed on the sand, beginning scratching and scratching it about. Whenever the land in its form dry land, and the bigger plows becoming hills, and the smaller plows of valleys. Where this you seeing matter is spreading matter being formed. While the dry land now extending as far as he could see, he dug a hole, planted the palm nuts, and saw it grow into maturity in a flash. the maturity palm tree dropped more palm nuts on the ground, each of which grew immediately in maturity and repeated the process. Obatala settled down with the cat from the company. Many months passed and he grew bored with his routine. He decided to create beings like himself and keep him company. He dug into the sand and soon found clay with which he molded figures like himself and started in a task, but he soon grew tired and decided to take a break. So you can see that he started to fashion man by the sands. So this is a old African story of humans or the physical matter being formed, of physical matter being shaped, and your spirit is being manifested into this shell or into this matter on the physical plane. He made wine from a nearby palm tree and drank bowl after bowl. Not realizing he was drunk, Obatala returned to his task and fashioned the new beings. Because of the condition, he was fashioned many imperfect figures. Without realizing this, he called out the Oran to breathe life into the creation. So when we talk about breath, we're talking about the spirit. And Saber Wujal talked about the spirit last night on one of our shows, and on one of our page, the Seshu Ni Metanetra page. He also went into the spirit as well, but do some research on what the breath is, what the spirit is by breathing, and you will see this in the Kemetu systems as well. You will see Kanun in North Africa, another African spiritual system. Kanun is fashioning man, and you can see that they use the Ankh. The Ankh it means life. So you will see them holding the Ankh up to certain things, which is breathing life or the spirit into the being. So you can see the similarities of North Africa and West African spiritual systems, but you can see them through all the spiritual systems, and you can see them through what most of us is practicing. Well, most, not me, but most are practicing some of the organized religions today, such as Judaism, Christianity, and and Islam, which are nothing but fragmentation, small fragments of our ancestors' spiritual systems. So you can see some of those fragments entangled into these major Western religions that most of us are practicing today, such as Judaism, Christianity, and religion, which we all know how it came about of us practicing these things, and that was through oppressing by someone else coming in and forcing their will of life, their perspective, and their outlook onto our ancestors. The next day, he realized what he had done and swore never to drink again and to take care of those who were deformed, thus becoming protectors of the deformities. The new people built huts as Obatala had done, and soon Ifa proposed and became a city. All other Orishas were happy with Obatala had done and visit the land often accepted from Olakan, the ruler of all below the sky. Y'all hold on one second. Son, you finna take a shower?
About to.
Okay, get in the shower.
I'm gonna get wet.
All right, your mother will be here in a little while. Okay. She had not been consulted. She had not been consulted by Obatala and grew anger that he had usurped so much of her kingdom. When Obatala returned to his home in the sky for his visit, Olakan summoned a great wave of her vast oceans and set them surged in crossing the land. Waves after waves she unleashed until much of the land was underwater and many of the people were drowned. Those that had fled to the highest land beseech the Orisha Ishun, who had been visiting, to return. Ishun
Batala. Not a Batala, but God, I can't think of the other name for Ishun. It'll come to me in a minute. Who had been visiting to return to the sky and reported what was happening to them. Ishun demands sacrifice be made to Batala and himself before he will deliver the message. And Oshun is a messenger. The people sacrificed some goats and Oshun returned to the sky. When Arulema heard the news, he climbed down the golden chain to the earth, or the Iko Iya, and cast many spells which caused the flood waters to retreat and dry African land reappeared. So ended the great flood. Historically, Oduduwa, the supreme Orisha, ordered Batala to create the Iya, but on his way to carry out the duties, he drank the palm wine and got intoxicated. That was how Oduduwa took the 3 items of the creation from him, climbed down from the heavens on the chain and threw a handful of the earth of the primordial oceans. He then put cocklers on it so that it would scatter the earth for him to create the land where Ila Ifa will be built. When the newly formed land was built, he planted a palm nut in the hole where it sprung, a great tree with 16 branches that represented symbolic clans of the early Ila cities, which was 16 cities, which was established by the 16 sons of Oduduwa. The intrusions of the creation by Oduduwa gave rise to the everlasting conflicts between him and his brothers Batala, which still exists today during the Itapa New Festival. In spite of all these, Oduduwa was the ancestor of the first king of the Yoruba land, while Batala was the first person to create human beings out of clay. Now, the things that I went into, I'm about through with my presentation. I'm going to go into a real video just showing you a just small snippet of the video of basically what I was talking about with some of the creation stories of the cosmology of our ancestors that practiced Ifa in northwestern Nigeria and southern and eastern Benin.
Mighty Orisha, the council of gods. Oroku ruled the sky above, and Oroku was master of all that was in the waters below. One day, a god named Obatala decided to create dry land. He asked for permission from Oroku and advice from Orunmila, the wisest of the Orisha. You will need a long gold chain, a snail shell filled with sand, a white hen, a black cat, and a palm nut, said Orunmila. Once he had all of these items in a bag, Obatala hung the gold chain from a corner in the sky and began to climb down, down, down. He kept climbing down, down, down for a very long, long time, until he finally reached the bottom of the chain. Obatala poured the sand and the shell into the mist below and released the hen. The hen landed on the sand and immediately began pecking and scratching, scattering the sand into all directions. The sand soon became vast mountains and valleys. Obatala planted the palm tree and soon stood before an entire palm forest. Obatala was very pleased with his work. He named the land Ife and settled down with the cat to live on his new land. But after several months, Obatala became bored. He began shaping figures in clay. As he worked, he drank palm wine. Oduduwa kept drinking bowl after bowl after bowl, and kept making more and more figures. When he was finished, he asked Oduduwa to breathe life into his clay people.
I hope y'all are able to hear the video playing in the background, the audio playing with the video. Let me know if y'all can hear the audio playing with the video as well.
Oduduwa swore never to drink again, and set to work building new, perfect beings from clay. As soon as Oduduwa breathed life into them, they immediately began building houses and cities. Oduduwa became the patron of mankind, and more specifically the deformed. All the Orisha were pleased with his work. All except Olokun, the master of the sea, who was never consulted about the creation of the earth and mankind in the first place. In anger, he caused a great flood which nearly wiped out all of Oduduwa's creations. Once the waters resided, everyone took the sea very seriously from then on.
Okay, that was it. That was the last of the video. So I just wanted to show, as I went through different varieties of the cosmology of the Yoruba people, I wanted to show a little small video, small snippet of the video of basically of some of the stories that I was talking about. And that video was just one story, but there are many numerous stories. I gave you 4 versions of the cosmology or the creation story of the Yoruba people in southern western Nigeria, which is in West Africa. I'm going to stop here. This is going to be the next presentation. This is the Ori, the house of the head shrine. So I will be talking about the Ori in the next presentation, which is already done. So I just did part 1. This is part 2. So I'll be talking about the Ori. I'll be talking about what is the meaning behind the Orisha, the Orisha, and we'll be talking about the Orishas, and then we'll go into some of the things that you can give to some of the Orishas. I'm gonna tell you one thing with a batala. One thing that you do, and we'll talk about that, and it won't be in that presentation when we go into the Oju Igun, which is the shrine. I mean, the face of the ancestors or the shrine, or we're talking about the altar. So when we're talking about the altar and different things, and we're honoring different Orishas and these different archetypes, you know, certain things that you can offer to the Orishas. And palm wine is one thing you don't want to offer to a batala. We can see at some of the versions, some of the old dudes that I told, most of the old dudes with a batala, he got drunk off the palm wine that comes from the palm tree. So he got drunk, and as he was fashioning man, he began to make some deform men as well, until I guess he got sober and started making them right. But this, and we're just going to go into the Ori, the Orisha, the Orisha. What is the meaning behind Orisha? And then we'll go into the Orishas, and we'll break down some of the Orishas. There are so many Orishas. You know, most of us know about 7 or 8 different Orishas, and I'm gonna talk about a few more. I'm gonna talk about the famous 7 that we always talk about, and I'm gonna talk about a few more, which, you know, the Iran Molis, you know, they talked about in some of the creation stories that I talked about earlier. It says 401. So there are 401 Orishas, but we only talk about 7, and I may talk about or go into why we only talk about the 7 that are over here, and how some of the practice of the Ifa tradition are a little bit different than the indigenous system over here, which we already know when I talked about the different migrations, not the migrations, but during the Atlantic slave trade, them going into Brazil, them going into Cuba, them going into Venezuela, all these different
places and synchronizing the religion of the oppressor with their indigenous culture, trying to keep and grasp and keep their culture and pass it down by synchronizing with the oppressor. What's the name? And then we'll go into the end of the presentation. We'll go into some of the things of the colors of Shango, the colors of Oya, the colors of Yimiya, the colors of Ogun, the colors of Oshun, the colors of Arulima. So we'll go into those different colors and probably give you some different meanings of the colors. You know, different colors. In the next presentation, and then after that presentation, I'll go into the Oju Egun, which is is basically the face of the ancestors, or we're talking about the altar. So I'll tell you and give you what an altar, because sometimes I know dealing with our people, you know what I'm saying, our culture has been demonized so much that when we talk about certain things, it sets off different things in our head. So when we talk about altars, and we talk, which next, that the part 3 will be the Ojun Ogun, which is the altar, and we'll be talking about we would talk about diva. Let me see. Okay, yeah, that was part 3 with the rites of passage, the ancestor worship. We'll break down what ancestor worship is. Most of my videos that I do, whether I'm doing the readings of passage or I'm doing the PowerPoint presentations, I always pay homage to the ancestors. You always hear me say Majumbe, Majube, Igun, Ibai, or you hear me say Igungun, Kiki, Igungun. So I'm always paying homage to the ancestors and praising the ancestors, because again, without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here without our ancestors. But our culture is always being demonized, just going back to the altar. So I'm gonna break down a little something about the altar, what the altar interface is between us and the ancestors, because even when we look at people that's being when we drive down the highways, we see altars outside of the highways, or we go into some of the inner cities, we see murals. So these murals of people that has passed. So we have all types of things. We have flowers, we have balloons, we have cards. Those are altars. So we have a misconception of what an altar is. So I'm gonna go into that, the rites of passage, and the rundown of some of the few of the Yoruba words. I gave a few earlier. I gave earth is Eya, or the invisible world was Ikole, Iya. The heavens is Oran, or Ikon Oran, which is the invisible. Yeah, next Sunday I'm gonna do part 2, the invisible realm, or the heavens. I think that probably was some of the only words that I went into, but I'm gonna give a rundown of a whole list of words. I think I said Omo, not Owo, no Owo, Omo. Omo is child. So I'll be giving a whole rundown of a lot of Yoruba words when we get to it. So I got a part 2 and a part 3. I'm gonna have to get what you're saying, Sean, too, because I did the North African presentation on the master builders dealing with the pyramids PowerPoint last week, and then I'm gonna do a part 2 to that, which I'm working on, dealing with the new dynasty, talking about the pillars. Basically, a lot of my Masonic brothers giving the Greeks the Doric, the Corinthian, and the composite, giving those to the Greeks. The Greeks had nothing to deal with the material or the elegance of the pillars. So I want to talk about that. And you said something about you did something on that. So, and I missed that presentation. I must didn't get a share on with that one. But I'm gonna go. I need to get that from you. And then when I do the Oju Ogun, I want to which is the altar. I want to look at some of your information as well. So I'll get with you on that. But I just finished the introduction of the Yoruba, Oduduwa, and the Ila'i for the Cosmology and the creation story. So that was my part 1. Part 2 next Sunday, I'll do the Ori. I'll do the breakdown of the word Orisha.
we'll go into the Orishas, and then we'll go into some of the things that you can offer the Orishas, and we'll go into the colors of the Orishas, and I'll give you a few more Orishas instead of than just the famous 7 Orishas, and then probably go into why we only recognize some of just those 7 Orishas, and we don't talk about some of the other Orishas. So I appreciate y'all. I'm bagging back just to show my reference again. My references, the handbooks of the Yoruba religions by Baba Ifa Karada, The Way of the Orishas, Empower the Life Through the Ancient African Religions of Ifa, preferenced by Afo Lebi Egbe, by Philip John Neimark, Finding the Souls in the Path of the Orishas by Told Marilla Corella, West African Spiritual Traditions, The Path to the Priest of the Baba Iken Kube Karada, which is a student of Baba Ifa Karada, which is also a great book, The Path to the Priest. The Ori by Foluke Fatube, which is also another book if you want to understand what is the Orisha, which in part 2 Sunday, we'll talk about the Orisha, not the Orisha, what is the Ori, and break down the different parts of the Ori. Fundamentals of the Yoruba Religion, Ori Worship by Chief Fatma, which is also a good book. My brother, my son, Black Panther, y'all know him as Benjamin Now. He recommended this book. I bought this book. He also recommended The Path of the Priesthood. I bought that. I bought that book. He actually is the one. Shout out to Black Panther too, man, because he's the one that actually. Everybody knows me for being on Kemet, which is Kemet is my first love, and everybody know me from the Seshuni Metaneta group. But I'm also gravitating back to West Africa as well, because again, as I was talking about, a lot of us come from West Africa via the Atlantic slave trade. So I'm trying to get more understanding of my West African roots as well. And so I've been studying and practicing this and talking to a Babaluau for the last 7 or 8 months. But that's a good book. Most of these books, every book on here I'm giving you is great books. But the best one I read was The Fundamental of Yoruba Religion, Ori Worship by Chief Fatma. And another book, The Concept of the Ori and the Human Destiny in the Traditional Yoruba Thought, the Self-Determinate Interpretation, Odele, Odidan, Balagun, Alabisa, Ona Banjo, University of Nigeria. New World Obi Divination by Oduduwa Ifedima. Shout out to Bro Ben again, because he introduced me to this book as well. These are the links for some of the articles that I read, and all of this information is entitled to Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hope I was able to walk y'all through certain steps of introducing Yoruba and Ifa. Modupe, Dupe, Pupupe, which means thanks or more thanks. Alifie.